Shalom Yasha'Allah is brother Mapathak, right? That'd be key, but in the ancient Paleo Hebrew. And this is going to be a video going into Revelation 16, dealing with the 7 vials, right? The 7 last plagues that the Lord is going to bring upon the earth to deliver his elect, right? Because we got Passover in 3 days, right? And the Lord used 10 plagues to deliver our forefathers, right, in the ancient days from ancient Egypt, right, which were the plagues of the water being turned into blood, right, the plagues of frogs, the plague of lice, right, flies, right, the plague that was put on the livestock, the plague of boils, the plague of hail, right, the plague of the locust, the plague of darkness, right, 3 days of darkness, right, and the killing of the firstborn, right. So the Lord used these different plagues to deliver us in the ancient Egypt, right, and now we're in modern day Egypt, right, now we're in Babylon, right, America, and the Lord is going to deliver us from this captivity with plagues just like he did in the ancient days. But before we go into the words of the Lord, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, right, that's all praise to the Most High God, whose name is Yahweh, in the name of his only begotten Son, who the world will ignorantly call Jesus Christ, but we know him as Yahweh Shai, right, the righteous, man. And I want to dive right into this thing with Salakia. Revelation 18 and verse 21. And it reads, "And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all." So Babylon, right, which would be on a spiritual level modern day Egypt, is going to be thrown down with violence, right? This place is going to be thrown down with violence. Let's go into Revelation 15, right? And the violence is going to be through these plagues, right? Through these different vials. Salaki, I put 25. Let's go to Revelation 15 and verse number 1. And it reads, "And I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels," right? So the Lord is going to use these 7 angels to bring forth these plagues, right? Let me get a quick preset before we read on in there. Sirach, I believe it's 39. Sirach, let me try 28. I believe it's 28. Salakia, nope, it might be 39. Bear with me, Yasha'Allah. I want to bring out this precept dealing with the angels. Khan, that's what I want. Sirach 39 and verse 28, and it reads, "There be spirits that are created for vengeance," right? So the Lord have spirits, right? Angels that's literally created for vengeance, right? It says, "Which in their fury lay on sore strokes. In a time of destruction, they pour out their force and appease the wrath of him that made him." So throughout Revelation, when you read about the end days, right, and the wrath that's going to come upon the earth, the Lord is constantly speaking about these different angels that's going to bring forth this destruction, right? And it says, "Fire and hail and famine and death, all these were created for vengeance." So the Lord have different spirits, different angels that bring forth fire, that bring forth hail, that bring forth famine, that bring forth death. You understand? Right? So I want to go back to Revelation 15. I just wanted to bring that out to the spirit. And I'm going to read Revelation 15 and verse 1 again. And it says, "And I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels having the 7 last plagues. For in them is filled up the wrath of the Most High God." Right? And these 7 angels holding these 7 last plagues, these 7 last vials, and them is filled up the wrath of the Most High. You understand? So what these angels do is they release the wrath of the Most High God upon the earth. Right? The Lord releases his wrath, his indignation through these different spirits, right? Through these different angels. Right? So I want to jump down. I want to jump down to verse 7. It says, verse 7, Revelation 15 and verse 7, and it reads, I'm going to start from 6. It says, "And the 7 angels came out of the temple," right? "Having the 7 plagues, clothed in pure and white linen." And the temple was talking about the temple in the third heavens, right? And it says, which is where the Most High God dwells. And it says, "And having their breasts girded with golden girdles." And it says, "And one of the 4 beasts gave unto the 7 angels 7 golden vials full of the wrath of the Most High, who liveth forever and ever." Right? So these vials are full of the wrath of the Most High. right? And it says, and the temple was filled with smoke from the glory of the Most High God and from his power, and no man was able to enter into the temple till the 7 plagues of the 7 angels were fulfilled, right? So the Lord got these 7 last plagues, the 7 last vials, right, which represents complete destruction, right, upon the earth. And let's go to 2nd Esdras 15, right, and then we're going to dive into Revelation 16 and give the understanding thereof, right? So this is the book of 2nd Esdras chapter 15 and verse 10, and it reads, behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter, right? And we're the Lord's people, right? Israel. It says, I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt, right? And this is speaking about modern day Egypt, right? This is a future prophecy. Verse 11, it says, but I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and smite Egypt with plagues as before, and will destroy all the land thereof. So that's how we're going to be delivered. The Lord is going to smite Egypt, right? Which is modern day, which is what would be called today America, through the Spirit. And it says, with plagues as before. So the same way he plagued ancient Egypt, he's going to do it to modern day Egypt, right? And it says, and will destroy all the land thereof, right? And it says, Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plague and punishment that the Most High God shall bring upon it, right? So this is speaking about those 7 last plagues, right? The 7 vials, right? And I'm gonna jump to verse 1, then we're gonna go to Revelation 16, right? And verse 2nd Esdras 15 and verse 1, and it reads, behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I shall put in thy mouth, said the Lord. And we're supposed to bring out these prophecies, right? In Revelation 19 and verse 10, Salakia, it tells you that the spirit of prophecy is a testimony of Yahushua, man. Right? So we have to speak the words of prophecy unto our people and let our people know what's going to come to pass in these last days. Right? So we're going to get into it. Let's go to Revelation 16. Right? We're going to start from the top. So this is the book of Revelation, chapter 16 and verse 1, and it reads, and I heard a great voice out of the temple saying to the 7 angels, right? So we're reading about these same 7 angels that hold the 7 last plagues, right? The 7 vials, right? It say, go your ways and pour out the vials of the wrath of the Most High upon the earth, right? And it says, and the first went and poured out his vial upon the earth, and there fell a noisome and grievous sore upon the men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worship his image, right? So this is going into, that grievous sore is going into men that's going to be hit by these different nuclear missiles, right? ICBM missiles, hypersonic missiles, all these different weapons of warfare, right? Chiefly dealing with nuclear weapons, you understand? And that's the men that's going to receive that grievous sore, right? So I want to go, let me get a quick precept in Zechariah 14 and verse 12, and it reads, and this, so like it says, and this shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. And that's that grievous sore, right? What they're going to receive from these weapons of warfare, right? These ICBM missiles, these nuclear missiles, right? That's that grievous sore that we're reading about in Revelation 16, right? Because chiefly Revelation 16 is dealing with World War III, right? It's dealing with nuclear warfare, right? So that's the first vial, right? So, and it says, I'm gonna read verse 3. It says, and the second angel poured out his vial upon the sea, right? And it says, and that sea, we're gonna go into it, right? I'm just gonna read the whole verse first. It says, and it became as the blood of a dead man, and every living soul died in the sea. Right, so when it says the second angel, he poured out his vial upon the sea, is meaning the nations. You understand, right? Because the sea represents the nations, right? So it's, this bomb is going to drop and it's going to destroy many of those of the nations, right? And I'm gonna prove that. Let's go to the next chapter to show that this sea, right, the water represents the nations, right? Let's get Revelation 17 and verse 15, and it reads, he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest where the whore sitteth are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. So waters represents men, right? Water represents nations, right? I'm gonna get one more to prove that. Let's go to Psalms 144. Right? This is the book of Psalms, chapter 144 and verse 7, and it reads, "Send thy hand from above, rid me and deliver me out of great waters." Right? So King David wasn't drowning when he wrote this. Right? He wasn't asking the Lord to deliver him out of the damn Pacific Ocean because he was drowning. Right? It says, "Deliver me out of great waters from the hand of strange children." So he like the strange children, meaning the nations, were likened unto great waters. Right? So that's what the waters mean. That's what it means when it says the sea was turned into blood. Right? Because a lot of men is going to die that day when those bombs are dropping. Right? So let's go back to Revelation 16. I'll get one more precept on that. Right? Just for brothers to add to their arsenal. Go to Isaiah 17 and verse 12, and it reads, "Woe to the multitude of many people, which make a noise like the noise of the seas, and to the rushing of nations that make a rushing like the rushing of mighty waters." Right? So the rushing of mighty waters, Salakia, people were likened unto the people and the nations were likened unto the rushing of mighty waters. Right? So that's plain. Let's go back to Revelation 16. So when we're reading about this sea that was turned into blood, it's talking about the nations. Right? So I'm gonna read verse 3 again from the top, and it says, Salakia, bear with me. "And the second angel poured out his vial upon the sea, and it became as the blood of a dead man." Right? So this is speaking about the nations, right? A lot of people dying, right? And it says, "And every living soul died in the sea." Right? And it says, "And the third angel poured out his vial upon the rivers and fountains of waters." Right? So the third angel is doing the same thing. So a lot of people of the nations are going to die. Right? When it says the rivers and fountains of waters, we just went into the precepts to show how this represents nations. And it says, "And they became blood." Right? And it says, "And I heard the angel of the waters say, Thou art righteous, O Lord, which art and was and shall be, because thou hast judged thus." Right? So you have the angels worshiping the Most High God because he's judging Babylon, right? And judging these wicked nations, right? And it says, "For they have shed the blood of the saints." Right? So this is how you know that water is talking about men, right? Because it literally says, "For they have shed the blood of the saints." It's not talking about the water shed blood of the saints. It's talking about the nations, right? It says, "For they have shed the blood of saints and prophets, and thou hast given them blood to drink, for they are worthy." You see that? So verse 7, it says, "And I heard another out of the altar say, Salakia, even so, Lord God Almighty, true and righteous are thy judgments." Right? "And the fourth angel pour out his vial upon the sun," right? "And power was given unto him to scorch men with fire." And it says, "And men were scorched with great heat, and blasphemed the name of the Most High God, which had power over these plagues. And they repented not to give him glory." So I'm going to read verse 8 again, and we're going to kind of break it down. Right? It says, "And the fourth angel poured out his vial upon the sun." Right? Meaning when the sun was at its peak, right? Which will be likened unto noonday, when the sun is at its highest peak and it's at its and it's the hottest, right? "And power was given unto him to scorch men with fire." So when we're reading about this, we got to remember that the things that we're reading are spiritual, right? This is not talking about the literal sun scorching men with heat. This is spiritual, right? And at noonday, right, when the sun is at its highest peak, right, and the sun is scorching at its hottest level, that's speaking about great tribulation, right? That's speaking about great affliction, right? Let's go to Matthew 13. Let's start from verse 5, right? So this is the book of Matthew, chapter 13 and verse 5, and it reads, "Some fell upon stony places where they had not much earth," right? And this is going into the parable of the sower, right? That's sowing the seed, right? And the seed represents the word, right? So it says, "Some fell upon stony places where they had not much earth, and forthwith they sprung up because they had no deepness of earth," right? And this is the point. "And when the sun was up, they were scorched," right? So it's literally the exact same wording that's used in Revelation 16. It says when the sun was up, they were scorched, right? And it says because they had no root and they withered away. And that sun represents tribulation, right? It represents affliction, right? It represents that furnace of affliction, man. Right? So a lot of people, when they go through that furnace and they feel that affliction, right, that tribulation, that persecution, that they couldn't endure in its truth. And that's what it's going into in Matthew 13. So I'm going to jump to verse 21 to show that's how Yahushua literally broke it down. So verse 21, it says, "Yet he have not root in himself, but endureth for a while. For when tribulation or persecution ariseth because of the word, by and by he is offended. So that sun represents tribulation. That sun represents persecution, affliction, right? So that's the same thing in Revelation 16, right? When it says the plague came so that men were scorched with the sun, is because through World War III came great tribulation, right? Great anguish, great affliction, right? Let's get another one to show that that's what the sun represents in the scriptures sometime, right? So this Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 8, and it reads, "For he shall be as a tree planted by the waters, and that spreadeth out her roots by the river, and shall not see when heat cometh." So heat represents tribulation, right? "But her leaf shall be green, and shall not be careful in the year of drought, neither shall cause from yielding fruit." So when it says, "and shall not see when the heat cometh," because he gonna have this man is gonna have the Most High God as his protection. Let me jump to verse 7 to get the whole context. Right? Jeremiah 17 and 7, it says, "Blessed is that man that trusteth in the Lord." So this is speaking about a man that trusts in the Lord and whose hope the Lord is, right? And it says, "For he shall be as a tree planted by the waters, and that spreadeth out her roots by the river, and shall not see when the heat cometh." Because that man trusts in the Lord. So the Lord is going to be his hedge in the day of tribulation, right? So he's not going to see when the heat cometh. And it says, "But her leaf shall be green, and shall not be careful in the year of drought, neither shall cease from yielding fruit." Right? Let's get another one. Right? So we're going to show when it says the sun scorched men, it's talking about tribulation. Right? So Psalm chapter 121 and verse 5, and it reads, "The Lord is thy keeper, the Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand." The Lord is thy shade. When you're under that tree and you're getting that shade from the sun, it kind of cools you down. The Lord is your shade in the time of great heat, right? In the time of great tribulation, right? And it says, "The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor moon by night," right? That's plain, right? It's not talking about the literal sun smiting you, right? And the Lord is protecting you from the literal sun. The Lord is going to protect you from tribulation and anguish, right? And it says, "The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth, even the evermore," right? And I'll get a couple more. Let's go to Sirach, right? Let's go to Sirach 43. So this is the book of Sirach, chapter 43 and verse 2, right? Because I was speaking about noonday earlier, so I'm gonna go into it, right? Because that's when the sun, upon the sun, that's when the sun is at his highest level, right? That's when the sun is at its peak, right? And it says, Sirach chapter 43 and verse 2, it says, "The sun when it appeareth, declaring at his rising a marvelous instrument, the work of the Most High. At noon," right? When it's at its peak, "it parcheth the country, and who can abide the burning heat thereof?" And on the spiritual level, it's saying who can abide the tribulation and persecution, right? Who can abide the affliction, right? On the spiritual level, that's what the sun represents. So that's what it's going into in Revelation 16. I'm gonna get one more precept on it, right? It's a lot of it talks about it a lot in the scriptures, but I'll get one more. So this Song of Solomon chapter 1 and verse 5, and it reads, "I am black but comely," right? And when you read about black in the scriptures, right, you can apply this the way brothers kind of apply it on the highways and byways and speak about skin color, but it is in its actual biblical context, right? This is speaking about being at a low estate, right? Being in a state of affliction, in a state of mourning. That's what black means, right? So it says, "I am black but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. Look not upon me because I am black," right? Because I'm at a low estate. I'm going through affliction. I'm going through tribulation. It says, "Because the sun have looked upon me," right? You see that? He says, "I am black because the sun have looked upon me," right? Talking about the affliction. You understand? "My mother's children were angry with me," right? Talking about the nations. "They made me the keepers of the vineyards, but my own vineyard have I not kept," right? So we were keeping the vineyard of the nations, right? We were in slavery and in captivity to the nations, building up their nation, but not our own, right? We didn't build up our own vineyard, right? Because we were taken into captivity, right? So it says, this is a heavy point I want as well. Verse 7, it says, "Tell me, O thou whom my soul loveth, where thou feedest, where thou makest thy flock to rest at noon." So where do you make your flock to rest at noon? Right? When great tribulation comes upon the earth, when the sun is at its peak, where do you make your flock to rest? Or why shall I be as one that turneth aside by the flocks of thy companions? Right? But the point is, through the precepts, you can see what it means when it's talking about the sun scorching with heat. It's going into tribulation and affliction. Right? So that's plain. Right? That's why you got to go precept upon precept when you're dealing with books like Revelation, man. You can't just read it for face value. Right? So I want to go back to Revelation 16 and where we left off. I'm going to read verse 8 again. It says, "And the fourth angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and power was given unto him to scorch men with fire." Right? So now we know that's talking about tribulation, right? And it says, "And men were scorched with great heat and blasphemed the name of the Most High," right? "Which have power over these plagues. And they repented not to give him glory." So even through all that affliction and anguish they were dealing with and going through and witnessing, a lot of men still didn't repent and give glory unto the Most High God. You understand? And verse 10, it says, "And the fifth angel poured out his vial upon the seat of the beast." Who is that beast? Right? It's dealing with that America. Chiefly is dealing with America, right? Just to make it plain. And it says, so it says, "And the fifth angel poured out his vial upon the seat of the beast, right? And his kingdom was full of darkness, and they gnawed their tongues for pain." And what does darkness represent? Darkness represent the wisdom and knowledge and understanding of the of America going out. You understand? Right? The different technologies, the different sorceries, right? All their wisdom on the worldly level, right? On the left hand side, right? It's going to be out in that day. You understand? It's not going to benefit him in that day, right? It's going to be no more wisdom in Edom, right? And that was prophesied about in Obadiah. Let's go to Obadiah 1 and 8. And it reads, shall not I in that day, said the Lord, even destroy the wise men out of Edom. So the wise men are going to be destroyed out of Edom, and understanding out of the mount of Esau. So the understanding of the Edomites, right? The understanding is going to be removed out of Babylon, right? That's what it means when it says it's going to be darkness poured upon the seat of the beast, right? Let's get a couple more. Let's go to Isaiah 13. In verse 10, right? And Isaiah 13 is another chapter dealing with World War III, right? So Isaiah 13 and verse 10, it says, "For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine." So this is talking about wisdom, right? The wisdom of Babylon is going to be casted out. You understand? Right? The wise men of Babylon are going to be casted out, right? Let's go to Job 18. Go to Job 18 in verse 5, right? And it says, Job 18 and verse 5, it says, "Yea, the light of the wicked shall be put out, and the spark of his fire shall not shine." That's plain, right? We know the wicked represents the so-called white man, right? So it says, "Yea, the light of the wicked shall be put out, and the spark of his fire shall not shine. The light shall be dark in his tabernacle, and his candle shall be put out with him." So this plain, right? This is prophesied throughout the scriptures that the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of Esau is going to be put out. You understand? And that's what it means when it says there's going to be darkness upon the seat of the beast, right? So this is all the different beautiful and mighty plagues the Lord is going to bring upon Babylon to deliver his saints, right? Upon the world, but chiefly upon Babylon, right? To deliver his saints, man, right? And let's go to, I'm going to read verse 10 again. Revelation 16 and verse 10, and it says, "And the fifth angel poured out his vial upon the seat of the beast," right? "And his kingdom was full of darkness." You understand? And it says, "And they gnawed their tongues of pain," right? And it says, "And blasphemed the God of heaven because of their pains and their sores, and repented not of their deeds," right? So the so-called white man, even when all this is happening, all these plagues are coming upon their nation, they're still going to be hardened in their hearts. And who else is hardened in their hearts when the Lord was bringing plagues upon them? Pharaoh, you understand, right? Pharaoh was doing the same thing. And what did the Lord say in Romans 9? Why did he raise up the so-called white man? Let's go into it. This Romans chapter 9 and verse 17. It says, "For the scripture saith unto Pharaoh, even for this same purpose have I raised thee up." So the same purpose have the Lord raised up Esau, right? It says, "That I might show my power in thee, and that my name might be declared throughout all the earth." And that's exactly why Esau is being raised up, right? That the Lord's name might be declared through all the earth. So he's going to make him harden his heart when these plagues are coming, just like Pharaoh did. You understand? Right? Just so he can magnify his holy name, because that's what it's all about. It's magnifying the name of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. Right? And I'm going to go to this Jeremiah 16 real fast, and then we're going to go back. This is Jeremiah chapter 16 and verse 14. It reads, "Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that it shall no more be said, the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt." Right? So right now we speak about the different plagues that the Lord did to bring up our forefathers out of the land of Egypt. But check this out. Verse 15. "But the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from all the lands whither he had driven them. And I will bring them again into the land that I have gave unto their fathers." Right? So that day is coming. That we're going to no longer say, "Oh yeah, remember what the Lord did for in Egypt." Right? Remember, Salakia, remember the plagues that he used to deliver us from Egypt. Right? In these last days, we're going to say, "Hey, remember the plagues that the Lord used to deliver us from Babylon." Right? To deliver us from America. Right? And from all these different countries that he scattered us in. That's what we're going to say in these last days. Right? We're going to talk about the plagues that the Lord used to bring down Babylon. Right? Not ancient Egypt. So let's go back to Revelation 16. So this thing gets deep. Right? And let's read verse 12. Revelation 16 and verse 12. And it says, "And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates." Right? Now this one is literal. Right? And it says, "And the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the earth, Salakia, the kings of the east, might be prepared." This is literal, right? And we can go into it real fast. Euphrates drying up, right? It says, is the Euphrates River drying up? It says, "Iraq's two main rivers, the Euphrates and the Tigris, will run completely dry within 2 decades unless action is taken." Right? So it says within, even though we don't really fully believe Esau's calculations, but it's just the point that they can see that the Euphrates is dry. It's literally drying up as we speak. Right? And they're estimating in at least 20 years it's going to be completely dry, man. Right? So that's how you know how close we are to the end. Right? Because the Lord is going to dry that river so that it can be easier for these different nations on the east to have that the battle of Armageddon. You understand? Right? So it says, "A report by the country's water ministry has warned the 2 rivers which originate in Turkey and run through Syria are the source of up to 98% of Iraq's surface water supply." Right? So the Lord is already drying this thing up, man. Right? So that's a literal prophecy that we're reading about in Revelation 16. Right? I'm going to read it again. It says, "And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared." Right? It's going to be easier for these different nations on the east to have war with one another. If they can have tanks going through the Euphrates rivers, right? If they can walk on that land beneath the Euphrates River, right? And that's what the Lord is setting up, right? The battle of Armageddon. Right? So reading on, it says, "And I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs." It says, "Coming out the mouth of the beast and out of the mouth of the false prophet." Salakia. "Come out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet." Right? So these are just different spirits that the Lord is the Lord have different spirits playing on the minds of these nations, right? The kings of these nations to go to war with one another. Right? That's all that's really going into, right? And it says, reading on, "For they are the spirit of devils." See that? So they're just spirits on the left-hand side, "working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and the whole world to gather them to the battle of that great day of the Most High God." So that's what these different unclean spirits are dealing with, right? And on the spiritual level, it's a representation of the frogs, the plague of the frogs that was in ancient Egypt, right? But this one is going to be spiritual, right? And they're likened it to frogs because they're going to be hopping from just hopping around from nation to nation, right? To from king to king, right? To put it in their mind to go to war with one another, right? And it says, I'm gonna read that again, verse 14. "For they are the spirit of devils, working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and the whole world to gather them to the battle of that great day of the Most High God." Right? Because this thing is this war is spiritual, right? It starts off spiritual, right? Let's bring this out, the classic precept, Ephesians 6 and 12. It says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So it's spiritual wickedness in high places. This thing is it's a spiritual warfare, right? And then it manifests itself on a physical level. You understand? So the Lord is putting different spirits upon these men to cause them to come against each other in the battle of Armageddon, right? So it's all spiritual, right? The Lord is everything is of the Lord, right? Go back to Revelation 16. So this is the book of Revelation 16, and let's read off where we left off at. I'm gonna read verse 15. It says, "Behold," and this is red letter. This is red letter. It says, "Behold, I come as a thief." This is Yahweh Shai. It says, "Blessed is he that watcheth and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame." So you have to keep your garments. You have to keep the faith in Yahweh Shai. You have to continually walk in the law, statutes, and commandments. You have to continue to endure, right? You have to keep your garments. That's what that's going into, right? It says, "Behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watcheth and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame." Right? And you don't want to walk naked in this thing. And ultimately, if you're walking naked, right, you're not walking with the that all white and pure garment. When Yahweh Shai return, you're going to be destroyed, right? So verse 16, and it says, "And he gathered them together into a place in the Armageddon," Salaki, in the Hebrew tongue, Armageddon, right? So that battle is Armageddon is going to be the battle when all these different nations are going against one another, and Yahweh Shai is going to return at the peak of World War III, which is the battle of Armageddon. Right during the battle of Armageddon, that's when our Lord and Savior Yahweh Shai is going to return. And if you're interested to get some understanding on the battle of Armageddon, I have a lesson on my channel. I believe it's titled "The Battle of Armageddon" or something along the lines of that. But it has Armageddon in the title, right? And I kind of did a whole breakdown on the battle of Armageddon, right? In verse 17. Right, this is the final vial, right? This is the final angel, the final plague. And it says, "And the seventh angel poured out his vial into the air, and there came a great voice out of the temple of heaven from the throne saying, 'It is done.'" Right? So when this seventh angel come and drop his vial, hey, it is done, man. Right? And it says, "And there were voices and thunders and lightnings, and there was a great earthquake, and such as was not since men were upon the earth, so mighty an earthquake, and so great." And it's going into this going into the return of Yahweh Shai. This going into a bunch of bombs dropping, right? During the battle of Armageddon, and it's going into the return of Yahweh Shai and the angels, right? This is when this great earthquake is going to come to pass, right? Let's go to Revelation 11, right? In verse 12, and it reads, "And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, 'Come up hither.'" And when is that going to happen? When Yahweh Shai and the angels return. They're going to beam up the elect, right? That's why it says, "And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, 'Come up hither.'" Let me start from 11 to show you who this is speaking to, right? And it says, "And after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from the Most High entered into them. And they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them," speaking about the elect, right? And it says, "And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, 'Come up hither,'" right? Because they're going to be beamed up when Yahweh Shai and the angels return, right? They're going to be beamed up into the chariots. "And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them." And you can read about this in Wisdom Solomon 5, right? We get it. Why not? Why not get it, right? So this is Wisdom of Solomon chapter 5 and verse 1, and it reads, "Then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of such as have afflicted him," right? Meaning the nations, right? Chiefly Esau, "and made no account of his labors. When they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear, and shall be amazed at the strangeness of his salvation, so far beyond all that they look for." So this is going into us, or Lord willing, brothers, is part of that number, right? This is going to the elect being beamed up and the nations watching it happen, right? And it says, "And they repenting and groaning for anguish of spirit shall say within themselves, 'This was he whom we had sometimes in derision, and a proverb of reproach. We fools accounted his life madness, and his end to be without honor. How is he numbered among the children of the Most High, and his lot is among the saints?'" So these nations are going to be confounded when they see the salvation, right? When they see the saints being beamed up by the Lord and his angels, right? And I want to jump down. Bear with me. Con, that's what I want. Verse 21, it says, then shall the right aiming thunderbolts, which is the laser beams, the fire, and the things that's going to be the weapons of the chariots, basically, right? It says, then shall the right aiming thunderbolts go abroad from the clouds. And we know the clouds in the scriptures, pursuing Psalms 104 verse 3, is dealing with the chariots, right? The Lord maketh the cloud his chariots, right? And it says, as from a well-drawn bow, they shall fly to the mark. So the chariot's going to be shooting down these thunderbolts, man, right? And it says, and hailstones full of wrath shall be cast as out of a stone bow, and the water of the sea shall rage against them, talking about the nations, and the flood shall cruelly drown them. Right? And it says, that's all I wanted on that. So yeah, when the Lord return, this is the things that's going to happen, and that's what's going to cause this great earthquake, right? These all the missiles dropping, and the chariots. So let's go back to Revelation 16. And that's the final vow when Yahweh Shai returns. Right? And it says, I'm going to read verse 17 again. And the seventh angel poured out his vial into the air, and there came a great voice out of the temple from the throne saying, it is done. And there were voices and thunders and lightnings, and there was a great earthquake, such as was not since men were upon the earth. So mighty an earthquake and so great. And the great city was divided into 3 parts, and the cities of the nations fell. You see that? Because that's when Yahweh Shai and the angels are going to take down these different nations. And it says, and great Babylon came in remembrance before the Most High to give unto her the cup of the wine of the fierceness of his wrath. Right? So like we read at the beginning of the lesson, Revelation 18 verse 21, Babylon was going to be taken down with violence. Right? And the plagues are going to bring forth this violence unto Babylon that's going to destroy it. Right? And it says, and every island fled away, and the mountains were not found, talking about the nations. And there fell upon men a great hail out of heaven, right? Every stone about the weight of a talent. And we just read about that in Wisdom of Solomon 5. The chariot's going to be dropping these hailstones, fire, and lasers, right? And it says, every stone about the weight of a talent, and men blasphemed the Most High because of the plague of the hail, for the plague thereof was exceeding great, right? So, hey, man, that's the 7 last plagues that's going to be brought upon the earth, right? And hey, the Lord is going to deliver us in these last days, man, right? With plagues, just like he delivered our forefathers in ancient Egypt with plagues, you understand? Right? So I just wanted to bring this out through the spirit, right? Because Passover is right around the corner, and these are things that should be in our mind, man, right? Thinking about how the Lord delivered our forefathers, thinking about the body of Yahweh Shai, thinking about our Lord and Savior Yahweh Shai, period, right? And thinking about how the Lord is going to deliver us and pass us over the same way he did our forefathers in these last days. Lord willing, brothers and sisters, is part of that number, man. Right? And Lord willing, this was edifying. Lord willing, brothers and sisters got the understanding thereof. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. Right? And with that, I want to say Shalom, Yasha Allah.